if I ever gave you guys, just one gem to take with you for the rest of your life, I would have to say today would be that gem. And I would say that gem would have to be philosophy. I know we don't want to read philosophy. How boring does that sound? Nobody gets excited when you talk about philosophy. But I can say I've been really heavily reading for about 7 years. And before I really got into philosophy, I was just reading more of like self-help books, books to help me with my daily activities, to reach my goals. Or I was reading books on leaders because I wanted to understand how they thought. I wanted to understand what they did to become successful so I could copy that blueprint, and hopefully those same odds would be in my favor. So I was reading books like Malcolm X. I was reading books like Team of Rivals, which was about Abraham Lincoln. Reading books on Elon Musk, and the list goes on. Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington. So I was really trying to soak up any knowledge I could from these great influential people so I could one day become a great leader like they were. But I would say my life really changed when I started to really get deep into philosophy. The great thing about philosophy is that it builds and molds one's personality. It brings order to our life, and it kind of regulates our conduct. So we don't stray off a path, and it keeps us on that correct course when we're going through bumpy times in this game we call life. So it really shows you how you should operate. Like, I majored in supply chain, and the reason I got into supply chain is because I wanted to be a business owner, but I felt like an entrepreneurship degree wasn't really gonna take me anywhere. I felt like it was too generic. Like, how could I really get a job out there with an entrepreneurship degree? So supply chain was the route for me, because supply chain would teach me the inner workings of a business and how it runs. It would show me how a business operated. So that's what philosophy does. It shows you how you should operate in order to live a more successful and more fulfilled life. Because at every hour of the day, we come across countless moments where we need some type of advice. And when you want to find an answer, you need to be looking towards philosophy, because philosophy is going to give you the advice that you need to get through that situation. So growing up, I used to always pray for wisdom. And of course, health, health is wealth, but wisdom was the main thing that I would pray for, because wisdom is one of the highest things that you can obtain as a being. And philosophy really pushes wisdom on its students. And it tries to teach you about Mother Nature and how, as long as you stay within the laws of Mother Nature, you can live a life that's, free of drama, that's free of stress, that's free of depression, that's free of anger. As long as you know how Mother Nature operates and you operate within those parameters, your life would be so much better. So I really caught on to that. That was something that I really would strive for. So I needed wisdom. I need that understanding. So when you think of Seneca, Seneca says, nobody lives a happy life if they're not in the pursuit of wisdom. And Seneca is a Stoic philosopher, one of the, older founding fathers of Stoicism. He's not a founding father, but, he's one of the older ones. But I just recently finished reading his book, and that was one thing that he was really trying to stress in his book, was wisdom, and always being in the pursuit of wisdom, always remaining a student. No matter how old you are, you still have to be willing to learn. You still have to be willing to hear different ideas and being able to take in different information in order to create a better thought and have a better understanding. So wisdom is something that I've been chasing, and I'm starting to really gain that knowledge to be able to pass along to other people so they can live a more fulfilled life that is stress-free and depression free, because a lot of those things that I have dealt with in my life, and I found answers through philosophy in order to help treat those problems. The thing about philosophy is that it has, religious undertones. You can tell that a lot of the philosophers, especially in Stoicism, that they were religious. Seneca was very religious, I believe, just from reading his text. And during his time, he also lived during the time of Jesus. So, they were practicing monotheism at that time, praying to one God. I'm not sure if the Romans were praying to one God, but I know at least the Israelites were at that time. So you got a lot of similar, I guess, ways of thinking that you would hear in the church today, in the sense of treating others how you would want to be treated, not to match anger and aggression with anger and aggression. So there's a lot of those type of undertones, which I'm Christian, so I love it. I love hearing it. It's great to be able to allow your mind to be your strength rather than, your fist. To be able to outthink people, to be smarter than people, to be able to control your emotions, to control, how you operate, which is what philosophy is all about, and which is why I love it. And because of that, a lot of philosophers were killed. There a lot of them were murdered because they were preaching a new way of thinking, a new way of approaching life. I would definitely have to say that Marcus Aurelius is my favorite philosopher. He was called the Philosopher King. He was a Roman emperor, and he never saw himself as a philosopher. He saw himself as a student of philosophy, and he never saw himself as an emperor. He saw himself as a servant trying to fulfill the needs of his people, and that's how he earned the name Philosopher King. And I just felt like reading his book was one of the greatest books that I've read. To see a man with so much power to be able to humble himself in that kind of way, because usually with people in that high of place, they're usually very ego-driven, and everything is about them, but everything was about his people, and how he can best serve his people. And you can really take notes from that. It reminds me a lot of like Martin Luther King, having all this power, but your main goal is to serve your people. And just to see a man, of his stature to be that way was very inspiring. And one of my favorite lines from him is that action and impulse should be directed towards the goal. Even the smallest things ought to be directed to a purpose. And that's how I approach life with everything, even reading. When I read all these books, I've read over 100 books, and when I do read, it's always with purpose. I don't necessarily read for fun. Some people read for fun because they enjoy reading, but I'm reading with a purpose. I'm trying to gain some type of insight. I'm trying to gain some type of information that's going to help me later down the road with whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So when people come and ask me, hey, what book should I read? Is that a good book? I would tell them, yes, it's a good book, but you have to tell me what it is that you're looking for. I have to know what you're searching for in order to direct you to the right book, because I want you to read with purpose, and I want you to get, all the questions that you have answered. So I'm always that way when it comes to everything. There's a meaning behind everything I do. All my actions are directed towards a purpose, and everybody should be operating that way. And when you start getting into philosophy, you just start moving different. You start acting different. You start seeing the world different. It's very much like you see the world in a way that you're taught. So my dad's an engineer, He sees when things are not level. He sees when things are not balanced. He sees the world in the eyes of an engineer, where I see the world in the eyes of somebody who specializes in supply chain. I see when things are not being optimized right, or things are running inefficiently, or things don't make sense from a business standpoint. I can notice that right away, because I see the world in terms of efficiency and how things are operating properly. It's the flow correctly, so it's just how we are taught is how we see the world. And philosophy has definitely changed the way I view the world and how I view things and how I view situations. And I would say definitely for the better, so for anybody out there, I will tell you, you need to pick up some type of philosophical book. I would say start with Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the Philosopher King that I was just talking about. Pick up his book. That book will change you, and you will probably start wanting to read more philosophical books. I'm telling you, because it's going to change the way you think, and not for the bad, definitely for the good. So that's all I got for you guys today. I plan on, doing more things, covering more topics. I usually am reading probably a different book every 2 weeks. So I try to bring information on the knowledge that I learned from that book. So if you guys got any questions about any books or anything, you know where to hit me at, and I'll give you that information. I'll give you those books. But I thank you guys for checking out this video today. I thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.